Hatu Murata. Oh, hello. Sorry about that. I didn't see you there. I was just reading the Book of the Dead. Okay, so I guess it's finally time for part 4 of episode 6 of MINUTIA MINUTE. Finally, we're on to the MINUTIA Morsel, and this long, arduous journey of an episode can be done. Thanks again for everyone who's watched so far. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you like our MINUTIA Morsel. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about Mr. Superman for our MINUTIA Morsel. I wanted to share with you a story, something that happened to me when I was at work. This would have been maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, not very long ago, and I was having a nerdy comic book argument with one of my coworkers while I was on lunch. There was a third person kind of sitting in who I know she likes comic book characters, but she just kind of goes to the movies. She doesn't read comics, and we were talking about whether Hulk or Batman would win in a fight. And as the hardcore Batman fan that I am, I came up with a million excuses why Batman would obviously win, and then since he's a huge Hulk fan, he was coming up with a million BS reasons why the Hulk would win. So it was just a lot of silly jargon. We were just kind of having fun with it, and somehow it came around to this third person who likes comic book characters but doesn't read comics. We're like, well, what would you say? And she's like, I don't know, I think Batman would win. And she was kind of on the fence, and she kind of went back and forth. And, I was all over that. And then somehow Superman came up. And I said, well, of course Superman would win that fight. And the non-comic book junkie just scoffed and was like, Superman couldn't win anything. And I was like, really? And, I mean, what does that say about Superman, I love Superman, mostly because of the Christopher Reeve films. I admit that it's been a long time since Superman has had his golden age, and he is definitely much more of a symbol of our culture than he is really a character anymore, which kind of makes it hard to publish these comic books about him. But it's interesting that people, just think you've got this, take it from an outside perspective. So you've never heard of Superman before. And you're like, well, there's this Hulk guy, he's super strong, and Hulk smash, all this and that. And it's like, who would beat him? A guy with some gadgets. Oh yeah, how about this invulnerable guy that can't be killed and is, impervious to everything? Oh no, you couldn't beat him. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense on just a literal level. If you don't know anything about these characters, you would never really side with Hulk. You'd always side with Superman. So there's something about Superman that obviously people just can't handle. And where does this decline come from? I hear writers talk about Superman as a character that's really hard to write. But I think that that's not it. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because I think Superman's too easy to write. You got a guy who can fly, he can kick ass, he's not invulnerable, but he can deflect bullets, and if you really need him to have it, he can have X-ray vision and laser vision. It's pretty straightforward. That should just be a fun brawling character. The problem is, everybody thinks that he's Jesus, and that's the only trick to writing a Superman book, is Superman is not Jesus. If he's anybody, he's Moses. He's very Old Testament, in my opinion. And since he was written by Jews, why would you say he's Jesus? That doesn't work for me, and I don't think it would work for the Schusters necessarily, but I don't know. The big problem with this, in my mind, as someone who's studied a lot of literature, is you hear over and over again, especially from the DC side of things, that our characters are representations of, they fill the void of like Greek myths and blah 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 blah. I'm sure everyone who's watching this video has heard that statement. The problem with that is, I mean, that's really, I mean, it's structuralism. They're drawing from structuralism, which is a literary theory that basically is saying that, you know, all of the stories we have are all really just one story that is extrapolated in different ways, and it basically fulfills sort of a psychological need that we all have. And so all stories are universal, and there's really only one story. That's a nice, neat kind of way to bundle up literature until you really look at it. And I mean, structuralism is old. In the literature community, structuralism died decades ago. And structuralism is older than comic books. You know what I mean? And that theory didn't last long enough. You know, comics has so far outlived the theory of structuralism, and yet comic books are still drawing from structuralism in order to sort of keep their foot in the door in the literature community, as opposed to really trying to apply new literary theory to comic books. That's something I would like to do at some point. I haven't really thought about a way in, but that's something I definitely would do myself. If I do, you'll be the first to hear about it. But the point is, I mean, comic books are definitely living in the past, especially when it comes to the way they think that they contribute to the greater literary scene. I mean, honestly, it's just kind of a joke now, and I think that they really need to get off that. And I think Superman is unfortunately the biggest victim of the structuralist critique. So, long story short, we gotta bring Superman back in a good way. Now, that leads us to Action Comics. Number one, I did review this, sort of, in my awards ceremony. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things, because I do like where this is going. People complain about, you know, well, this isn't, you know, Superman the way it used to be, but this really isn't that far removed, in the sense that, I mean, when Superman first started, in his first, like, year, I mean, he was a crusader of social injustices, you know. He was banging down crappy tenement buildings and, you know, taking on evil landlords and stuff. And so to start this with Wall Street, I think is a stroke of brilliance, because, I mean, it took that character who was created in the Depression and applied him to the new Depression that we're in now. And, you know, just because it isn't the prevalent Superman doesn't mean this isn't a Superman that hasn't existed before. It is, very much so. And it's very close to what Superman started out as. So that's something that I really appreciate about Action Comics. And I think it's a step in the right direction. The question is, what does Superman really stand for now? Because, you know, he used to be sort of the universal immigrant character. And now that the world is so globalized, that doesn't really have as much weight, I think, as it did in 1938. And then he sort of became a symbol of the social order, big blue Boy Scout type. And that doesn't hold much water now because, you know, I mean, ever since Watergate is the end of Superman in a lot of ways because of that, because he is definitely, you know, people don't want their heroes to be big blue Boy Scouts, you know, because we all know that the big blue Boy Scouts aren't what they appear to be, right? So what does he stand for now? I think that this is the part where Action Comics is lacking. We don't really know what he represents for us, and I think that if you go back to the immigrant thing, it doesn't work, because we live in a global society now, and it just doesn't fit. I think, personally, that if I was to write Superman, it would very much be Superman versus the digital age. You know what I mean? I mean, he's a symbol of humanity in a world where computers are everything and do everything for us. And I think that, if anything, he might benefit from sort of like the story of John Henry's hammer. You know, the guy who is facing off with this railroad building machine, and he does, you know, he gets more done with his hammer than the machine can do when, you know, against impossible odds. I think that Superman could really benefit from this, this kind of an interpretation in the digital age we live in, where people are really becoming less and less necessary for society, which is scary. So, anyway, that's just my 2 cents on Superman. Let me know what you think. What do you think is wrong with the Big Blue Boy Scout? What do you think's right? Do you like Action Comics? just let me know all around what you think. One thing I will say really quick is with the John Henry's Hammer sort of versus the digital age. That's one thing I liked about Superman issue 1, was that moving from the Daily Planet, or moving the Daily Planet building, and Superman kind of dwelling in the past. I mean, it's clearly an allegory for DC now, and going into the digital age of comics, Superman, the character, is reluctant. And by the way, I think it's interesting that that the Jeff Johns character is Lois Lane in this. If you read that closely enough, I mean, the sort of phony baloney job description that Lois Lane has just is so familiar to the phony baloney Jeff Johns sort of invented job that Jeff Johns has. So read it and check that out. Let me know what you think about that. But the whole idea of, you know, clinging to humanity in a digital age is something I think that this book kind of does, although I don't think it's what they set out to do. I think they set out to do just strictly sort of an allegory for DC's New 52, and it just coincidentally falls into that same category. So anyway, let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this 4-part episode of Minutia Minute. I hope you think this Minutia Morsel is intriguing. Let me know what you think, as I said, and I'll see everybody soon. Coming up, I have, in episode 7, I will do what I got yesterday for my Wednesday comics. And then also coming up, I do still want to talk about some of Marvel's Ultimate line, which I did pick up about a week and a half ago, something like that. So you can expect all that coming up. After I do my Wednesday comics, honestly, I'm taking a little break because I've done so many videos. I can't do these every day like I've been doing. So anyway, thanks again. Have a great night.